So far, then, we've been discussing this foundational practice of acceptance. It's this ability to accept past trauma and injustice. Now, in general, acceptance applies to the past and the present. So we are able to accept things that went wrong, that happened to us in the past, but also we have this ability to accept the injustices that we currently experience in the here and now, in the present moment. And so there is another practice associated with this. You could say it's like the other side of the coin to acceptance, and that is what is called freedom from hope and fear. Now, freedom from hope and fear is basically being free of expectations for results in one's practice. It's being goal-oriented, and also being free from the fear of failure. And so as we can see, this freedom from hope and fear is associated with future moments. Now, exactly what it means to be free from hope and fear is very difficult. This is a very high level of practice for experienced practitioners. But it is something that we can use in a practical way in our meditation as beginners. So as you know, when we meditate, one of the basic instructions is to sit there comfortably and then don't bring up the past. Don't try to change the present moment, and don't chase after the future. And that means we have to have acceptance. Acceptance of the things that happened in the past, our successes and our failures, so that we don't mull over them in our mind during meditation. And as I said, acceptance of what's going on now. For example, discomfort in your legs while you're meditating, or somebody making a noise next door. It's distracting your meditation. In order to be able to say it, we have to be free of this resentment for difficult circumstances. We have to be able to forbear hardship. And also not to cling on to our trauma from the past. This is a massive distraction in our meditation. And for anybody who's done a bit of meditation, they're going to understand the truth of this. Because we sit down and then immediately we start thinking, why did she say that to me yesterday? Or why didn't I get the promotion I was thinking about? All kinds of things go through our minds. And as I said, then we feel discomfort or we get distracted or we're not able to meditate and it irritates us. And this only makes things worse, right? So this aspect of being free in hope and fear, as I said, is associated with future moments. For example, sitting in meditation and wondering when the results will come about. How quickly will I achieve the path of accumulation? It's quite funny because this is something that comes up a lot. These are the sort of questions that Westerners ask their teachers, their lamas. They say things like, well, I've been meditating for 9 years. I must nearly be on the path of accumulation by now. So what we do is we spend all our time worrying about gaining results in the future, and this actually stops us from achieving those results because we become goal-oriented. And we want to achieve some kind of level or have some kind of heightened experiences of consciousness, bliss, and tranquility. And what's for sure is as long as we're goal-oriented in this way, then we're not going to have any substantial or special experiences in our meditation, because we're going to be doing exactly what we shouldn't be doing in meditation, and that's worrying about the future, wondering what's going to happen tomorrow. And the other aspect of this future practice, this practice associated with future moments, is freedom from fear of failure. This is really difficult for many people. We feel like the path is just too difficult, and no matter how hard we try, we'll never be able to achieve our goal. It's like buddhahood. It's so difficult, and I have to give up so much. And no matter how hard I try, I might never get there. This could just all be a waste of time. And this is a huge obstacle to us making progress on the spiritual path. And why is that the case? Well, you've all heard the words before. What we're trying to do is remain present. Merely remain in the present moment. Now, whether or not we can actually go outside of the present moment is debatable. That's a provisional statement, really. This ability to go into the future or the past is not something we can do, right? We don't have a time machine. But when we say that, we mean that we're sitting as we are now without thinking about what happened the other day or trying to wonder what's going to happen tomorrow. Our plans and goals and fears, hopes, expectations, all these sort of things just draw us away from what we call this present moment or presence. Now, the reason why we need to remain present is because what we're looking for is nothing other than our current experience. In fact, we don't have anything else other than our current experience. It's just that sometimes in the present moment, we're thinking about what happened yesterday. Sometimes we're worrying about what's going to happen tomorrow at work, or maybe in our studies. Or we're trying to change what's going on here and now. Wishing the noise outside would go away. Or wishing that somebody would open the window so I don't have to get up and do it and distract my meditation. It is the case that what we need to do is just be okay with what is, whatever arises. But in order to achieve this, we have to get rid of our hopes and expectations, our fears of failure, and also we have to stop clinging to our resentment for negativities that we experienced. We hold on to our trauma so tightly, and it's really just holding on to it that afflicts us. And I know it's not easy to let go. I'm not saying it's easy to let go. We all know that no matter how hard we try, those bitter memories continue to arise. Anyway, what we do is we sit on our cushion and we try to deal with that, right? We try to deal with those experiences that we can't let go of. And as I said before, then there's 3 basic techniques associated with the 3 vehicles. And that is abandonment, transformation, and recognition. Or you could say understanding how things are, the way things are. Now really, there's only so much benefit we can gain from abandonment. Abandonment is a type of forced conditioning. It's just cutting ourselves off from the circumstances that will trigger us, basically. So if there's somebody in our past who has traumatized us, mistreated us, then when we're in their presence, we can't help but think about those unpleasant memories. So abandonment's really about cutting ourselves off, burning their picture, avoiding the streets they walk down, that sort of thing. Ultimately, abandonment cannot help us get rid of our trauma. It can only reduce the circumstances for that memory to arise again. Ultimately, what we need to do is to transform that negative experience into something positive, or ultimately to recognize the negativity for what it is. And what is taught in the Buddha Dharma, at least, especially in the teachings of the highest Tantra, then that experience is purity. That's really difficult to understand, right? We don't perceive these negative experiences to be purity. Quite the opposite. They're intolerable, painful. When we get angry, it burns up our minds. When we are gripped by desire and greed, it's like we're poisoned. We have no power to overcome our attachment. So what do? We use these techniques. Acceptance, being free of hope and fear. We use these techniques to transform our minds, to soften our character, to open our heart. And as I said many times before, what we need to do initially is fake it, basically. We've got no choice. We've got to go through the motions. We have to set up a routine and then habituate ourselves. But although at first we are merely faking it, one should never look down on this practice, because it is the foundation of transformation. It's the cause for achieving tranquility. And as I've said before, then there's two types of bodhicitta. Remember, bodhicitta is this loving kindness and compassion. There's relative bodhicitta, and there's ultimate bodhicitta. And this relative bodhicitta is one that takes sentient beings to be real. Of course, for us they are real, right? But we hear how sentient beings are illusion-like. That although they appear, that they are not real or substantial, merely ephemeral, insubstantial. But you have to work with what you have. And the way we see things is that they are real. Sentient beings are real. The external world is real. It gives us pleasure and it harms us. And as long as we have that view, then we have to work with that. Work with what you have, right? So let go of the past. There's nothing you can do about it. That does not invalidate your experience in any way. It does not invalidate your trauma or your suffering. The Bodhisattvas only have compassion for you, for your suffering, and love for you. That means they want you to succeed. You just have to recognize that the more you cling to the past, the more it can harm you. And likewise, the more you cling to current experience, the more it can harm you. Like if you go to the dentist, right? They've got to stick a needle in your gum and drill into your tooth. Well, that's much worse if you can't accept it. If you find it to be intolerable, then it only proliferates the suffering. It only makes that suffering worse exponentially. But once you accept it, then it kind of loses its fangs. This tiger loses its teeth once you're able to accept it. It's like, well, yes, it's painful, but, in a few hours, I'll feel much better. I can see what the benefit will be, so I just have to accept it. Makes it a lot easier, right? And then in terms of the future, well, basically, it doesn't matter how well you plan. You can never tell what the outcome is going to be. I mean, you could have the best intentions, you could be very diligent, you could study hard, but still fail. It's uncertain, especially when it comes to work, etc. You can make all the plans you like, and then suddenly things can just completely go wrong. Somebody who thought was your partner, or that you were working with, can suddenly take you to court, try to sue you, and then just ruin the entire venture. The thing is, the future is out of your control. As likewise for failure, Some people don't try at all, but they still succeed, whereas others are very diligent and apply themselves one-pointedly and they still fail. You have to be realistic. Of course you have to plan, of course you have to study, you have to prepare, but once you've done everything you can, then there's no point in worrying about the future. It's out of our control. The past is out of our control. And ultimately, the present moment is something that has been shaped by our previous accumulation of karma. So what matters in the present moment is that we have right application. We apply ourselves. As I said, the path is the Eightfold Noble Path, right? So it's all about how you apply yourself, mentally, verbally, physically, how you practice, what your motivation is. If these are correct, then in the future, whether you experience ups and downs of the mundane world, then eventually you will reach your goal. So I just thought I'd leave you with those thoughts. And then I'll see you next time.